All right, mic check 1 2 1 2. Welcome back, guys. Our podcast, episode 7. I'm very excited about this episode. This is probably gonna be one of the more interesting episodes. I got some good friends, some colleagues, some guys that run in the same lanes and running their own race. We're gonna have this be a good, candid, open conversation, really about Black ownership, particularly in the entertainment and hospitality industry. I'm gonna stop talking now. I'm gonna let the guys introduce themselves. But I can't stress enough how good this episode is going to be. We don't have any like pre-recordings. We don't do no pre-background tapings. I just know my guys and how good they are at what they do. So I'm going to pass it to my guy, Chuck, at the left. That's how we deal in spades. We go to the left. So I'm going to let Chuck introduce himself first.
My name is Chuck. I'm the owner of Sunset Kitchen in Cleveland, Ohio, located in University Circle. And I've been in the entertainment space now for, it's about to be 20 years.
Sheesh.
So I've been around for a while. But yeah, just a little bit about myself. I'm pretty sure we'll get more into my story and background and all that as the podcast continues. But yeah, that's me.
As we will. To my right, Mr. Cincinnati, Mr. Ohio, the legend himself, Rico. Tell him about yourself.
Yeah, Rico Grant. My mother calls me Ricardo still, especially when she needs to get a point across. I would define my work as architect, builder, creative, risk taker. Chuck, you know about the risk and the things that we do. A few spots in Cincinnati, bar, lounges, nightclubs, barbershops, art galleries, and such. And happy to be here. Real happy to be here.
I steal all of my my adjectives and my verbs from Rico's Instagram posts. So when he says things like architect, or I'm standing up a project, or I'm I'm juicing the creative process, I'll be writing that down. I'm about to say that in a meeting. It sound like the man.
I like that.
That's how it's gonna be.
Take it till you make it, people.
Like, you made that up? Like, yeah, I did make that up. I got that off IG like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's dope.
So we're gonna reverse it a little bit. Tell me how. And let's just say in Cliff Notes version, and maybe not Cliff Notes, maybe a little bit longer, but tell me how, Rico, you kind of got started in this lane. And Chuck, I'm gonna ask you the same question as well. Tell you kind of like, how did you get here to this kind of ownership, creative, let's call it a service space, if you will.
Yeah. Deprivation, man. I born and raised in Cincinnati. Had the opportunity throughout my corporate career to move around a few cities, all very short stints, but powerful places. DC, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and the energy that I felt in those spots, and you and I have talked about it before, is unmatched. I wondered if some of the things that existed in those places could exist in the place that I love the most. And I haven't been proven wrong. Without the shadow of a doubt. The people in Cincinnati, specifically people who look like us, they want these things. I think I also underestimated how many transplants we have, not only in Cincinnati, but in Ohio. People are moving here to work for corporations or do different things.
Facts.
And they're coming from the places that we go to have a good time, to collaborate, to connect. And so really it's the people that keep me fueled and our team fueled, which is now, we're at 103 employees.
Yeesh.
And all of them are phenomenal in doing that work, passion work. But I think time, space, and opportunity has been a huge benefit to what we're doing. And quite frankly, just the sheer ability to want to do it. So we're here now. We're going to keep it going. But that's been probably one of the biggest things to help us get to the point.
You hit on something, and I'm back to it. And just so you know, I write some questions down, but I kind of shoot off the hip because this is a real conversation. You know what I'm saying? I want people to tell authentic stories and really get into the nuts and bolts of like who they are, what they do, and provide insight to our viewers. But I'm gonna come back to it in a minute. Chuck, give us a little backstory.
Little backstory about myself. I went to the University of Toledo, and that's where I kind of started in this entertainment thing. It started off with some older guys. I don't want to say I was popular. I just knew a lot of people when I was on campus, and this is years ago. They were just like, hey, Chuck, you want to throw a party? And at that time, I had never thrown any parties. I didn't know anything about this space at all whatsoever. So they slapped my face on the flyer. We went to the union. We printed out, like 500 copies. And it was like, just pass it out. So I just started passing out flyers, passing out flyers. I had no idea if people were going to come, people not going to come. I had no idea. Man, I swear to God, man, there was so many people at that party. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. That's what's up. I don't know nothing about this. At the end of the night, we split our money 4 ways. I got 25%. 3 other guys got, the other 75. And that was like my introduction into getting money in, off my name, my image.
NIL check.
Yeah. That was my first NIL deal.
Promoters, the original NIL deal.
I was the original, you know what I mean? And after that, I just saw what could be, from getting a couple $100 from throwing a party to now, I've been blessed to own a few places. I don't have as many as 113 employees. I hope to get there one day. Right now, we're about 15. So yeah, man, that's where it started from. And to where we are right now, man, I'm blessed. I'm happy. I've been in a lot of, good deals, bad deals. I've been through every single deal you could ever think of. But yeah, it all started from my face on the flyer at the University of Toledo to now, to where we are now. So
that's dope.
It's a crazy story and had a lot of ups and downs these last 20 years, but I just keep pushing.
The funny thing is, so for those of y'all that don't know, me and Chuck went to high school together. Our birthdays are 2 weeks apart, but we are a grade apart in school years. And so, a lot of the things that Chuck experienced, he would kind of come back and tell me at UT. So I'm like, oh, it's lit. I'm about to go to UT. Like, it's going down. And I remember, you probably don't even remember this. Not Ant. What's Ant's brother's name? Miller.
Damn.
Al Miller.
It was Al that got me throwing parties.
Exactly. So I remember you telling me the story. Al was throwing a party. And they started doing a weekly party, and you was like, man, they give me $200 a week. It was $200 at the time, I was like, damn, $200 a week.
Man, what?
And then you hit me with something that made me really think. You was like, if they giving me $200 a week, how much is they making? I said, oh.
And to be completely honest with you, that's where my mind started like, because, at first, I got $200 just for throwing, just passing out flyers to people. And so then I'm like, well, that means as a total, we probably getting $1,000 off the door. And so then I was like, well, what if we threw, these are just weekly parties. So now you start talking about what if we did icebreakers? Oh. Now, what about these concerts? What about events? What about if we can get the whole city to come together? Now, what about the bar money? And so now it just your wheels get to turning. And that's what really kind of opened the door for me because I was like, well, if I can just do this on this end and, bring 1,000 people, 500 people to a party and we can get $10 or $15, $20. And then eventually, we bossed up. We got a lot more than $15 at the door. You know what I'm saying? But now you start thinking about what about the bar money? What about the bottle service? What about the sections? And that's when you really start to level up and say like, man, I can really make this something.
And so me, Chase, and Byron, they like the official like board members of EOM, Everything Ours Entertainment, Everything Ours Media. But we had this conversation about like the natural progression of like nightlife and entertainment. I
saw that. Yeah, it was a great episode.
And it's funny, you kind of all live this same thing. I mean, and a lot of it stems from, you Greek.
Yeah.
Chuck Greek, I'm Greek. That always kind of is like the gateway entry. And then your first job is passing out flyers.
Right.
Then you might graduate to wristbands at the door.
Yeah.
I know my biggest thing was like, I can't wait to go to the door and be like, hey, I got you. I got past everybody.
Yeah. I got you.
Pull that G card out. So it's like, all right, cool. And then you matriculate to, all right, I'm getting a little payout or I'm getting a bar tab and a payout. Now I'm getting a cut. I'm getting a percentage to, okay, let's do, something a little more elevated. Now we charging 2025. Everybody loved the icebreaker money because that was like the one time where you knew like everybody's going to be excited. Let me hit my lick. And then it gets involved to, all right, now let's look at like, okay, where's the other streams of revenue coming from? The VIP table money. You know what I'm saying? Now you start doing pre-sale. I remember the first time I made an event on Eventbrite, I was like, people can pay through here and I get the money. I ain't got to wait through the door. They give you an advance on your ticket money so you can go in without having that.
You know what's crazy about what you're saying, Chuck, and what you said, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is that the way your mind worked is important because our people oftentimes take that $200 a week and be like, I'm good, right? It's that settlement moment, right? And I think I've been doing a lot of work thinking to myself that, wait a second, I worked for that. I've earned that. I have the right to have that. But then thinking about the expansive opportunities of what's next, right? And I think that my biggest thing that I hate to see is a promoter being a promoter for 20 years.
Cutting yourself short.
It's like, where is the progression, right? And I think about, there's probably some guys may do it because that's the spot that they want to stick in and that's where they're comfortable at. And there's nothing wrong with being an asset-free company, right? There's actually science to that.
That's good.
But at the same time, where is the evolution? And I think the evolution comes from asking questions and knowing that those questions are asked. Okay, we're doing 200, but what is that bar doing? And then also just knowing the value. I'm not shy to say this. Love on 4th is the most expensive place in the city.
Oh, I believe it.
But I tell people all the time, if you want a premium product, you have to pay a premium price.
That's a fact.
Right? My father used to tell me all the time, you're gonna get what you pay for.
Exactly.
And our promoter model, we work with some promoters, and our motto is to make sure that those guys are taken care of because like you said, we were the original NIL style athletes, right? And college basketball, college football, you get a backpack, a sweatsuit, and come and basically risk your life for us every week.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing. And now I try to take that advantage point and opportunity and knowledge to make sure that our guys are taken care of, right? And I think it's really important piece to just continue to be a visionary, ask those questions, understand your value, and build off of that.
I think the other thing to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, I really like that. But when you said, guys that are promoters for 20 years, you know why I'm not mad at that sometimes? Because one thing that I've learned, especially when I switched over to ownership, probably about, it might have been 10 years ago, but I like when people know how to just stay in the lane, and I like when you know how to play your position
and
on the team.
Dominate that lane.
And dominate
that lane.
And kill it. So
right?
if you're going to be a promoter for the last 10 years, 15 years, I hope you're still not doing, these type of parties down here. I hope you've elevated yourself to where
on Tuesdays for the lane.
Come on now. I hope you elevated yourself, but there's nothing wrong with you staying in your lane because we need everybody to do their own thing.
We do.
So even the security guards, we need the security guards. Like you can't be a bartender now, but you have to be a security guard. And even if you've been a security guard for the last 20 years, hopefully now you've got some guys up under you. Hopefully you've created your own lane and now you have your own security company. Hopefully the bartenders. Hopefully I hope that you're still not just pouring shots for the last 20 years. Hopefully you've elevated.
Making cocktails now.
Now you're making cocktails. Now you're making craft cocktails.
Creating
now you
menus.
may even have your own.
Now you're doing private events.
Private events.
People doing private bartending.
Exactly.
Yep. So as long as, I'm with you, man. The evolution matters. And I think everybody has an opportunity to evolve in their own special way. The key to the mechanism is that everyone's evolving.
Everybody's evolving.
Everybody's evolving.
But it takes all of us, like I say this all the time, it takes all of us for us to make this operation run.
I agree.
So it takes the DJs. It takes the valet. Everybody has to be on the same
bar
page.
Backs, man.
The bar backs.
Bar back can be
man.
boy. A bar back will change the game
the whole day.
Man. Bad one or a good one.
No, for
Either
real.
way, that dictates the night any given time.
That makes a lot of sense. And I want to ask this question. I'm going to go to a little bit of a travel question, but we talk about staying in your lane and riding this seats on the bus. How has it been, the experience being on the ownership side versus, like you said, I'm coming here, I'm going to do my event, I'm going to go home. How was that transition? Whoever wants to answer first, each of y'all, because that seems to be like what it used to be is the natural progression. I want to throw a party. Now I've seen this, now I learn how everything works. I want to own my own spot. I want to be in ownership. So talk to me about that transition.
I will say this. I think that when you switch over to ownership, it's probably the hardest job that you will ever have in your whole entire life. I don't care who it is, what you've done. Anytime that you take that leap to say, I want to own my own, like right now, I own my own restaurant. But now I take on all the responsibility of that restaurant. So if a chef doesn't come in, now I have to put on a chef hat. I got to put on an apron. I have to. If a bartender doesn't come in, it's not like, we can't not open because the bartender didn't come in. Now next thing you know, I'm behind the bar. If the bar back, like you said, the right bar back will make or break this place. But if he doesn't come in, unfortunately, I have to go do that. It's not a problem. This is what I signed up for. But I just wanted to be known that not everybody is built for something like this. Not everybody is built for like how we do. We may have, a night where we're there till 2:30 in the morning. We close at 1, but we can stay open until 2:30. But we may have that night where somebody's party, like it's Rico's party. It is just pumping. It's pumping. But on Sundays, we have to get ready for brunch because we got reservations at 11 o'clock in the morning. So we were just here until 3. you got to go home. You got to shower. You got to get yourself together. You got 4 hours worth of sleep. You got to get back up here again, start cooking at 8 to get ready by 11. So it's not easy. Like a lot of people want to own their own. And who doesn't? It sounds great, but it's the hardest thing in the world. And you have to be built for that. But that's why, like I said, again, I love people who just want to stay in their lane. Well, hey, I just want to help. Everybody can't be a Mark Cuban. But we all can hoop, and maybe you could do videos, you can do pictures, you can coach, you can train. There's so many different lanes up under this umbrella.
Winning program.
You don't have to hold the umbrella. Yeah. One person doesn't have to hold the umbrella.
96 Bulls, right? It was a perfect example of it. Dennis Rodman, 20 rebounds, 7 points, 2 assists. You got Scottie Pippen, 13 assists. Exactly. You know what I mean? And then you got Jordan, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, 6 steals, 35 points. 5 titles with that system, right? Because everybody was able to play their role. But I also understand the importance of everybody evolving in that role, right? But you're exactly right. I'll tell you the story though. I sent the text out about a year ago to nearly every owner that I had ever worked with, kind of in my promoter days when I was throwing parties and icebreakers, and I just apologize.
And you can understand.
I apologize for getting on them about not texting me back in 2 hours. I apologize for challenging their deal structures constantly because now I understand. I have a much greater understanding of the frustrations, the restrictions, right? And all the things that goes into running your business. The thing about it, and Chuck, I think you might be able to resonate with me on this one, is that Marlon and I started to talk about it a little bit before the episode started. Everybody wants a spot. Everybody wants a spot, not understanding the business that goes into it. There's so much business. There's so much politics. You got to meet with this authority figure. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's a no sleep policy when you're doing this. And to be frank with you, sometimes I personally evaluate, is the money even good enough for all the things that transpire as a result of having to work that ecosystem? Sometimes. And in some cases it does, and we do great. We got businesses that are thriving, but when it comes to to the point now where I'll be 40 years old in July and I got to think about my work-life balance, I got to think about family, I got to think about my mental health, you start to realize that some of these things you may or have to give up or not take on that next opportunity because self-sustainability is incredibly important. And if you fall out, it's over. Everything is done, right? And we talked about, having over 100 employees now, and we celebrated that as a company. But the reality is that these people are feeding their families based off of the creation and based off of the P&L being done right, and based off the marketing strategy being executed, as flawless as possible. And all of that is pressure. People's lives are in your hands. So for anybody out there, I don't know what camera I'm looking at, you want a spot, think about the people that's gonna invest in the things that you've created and the drawbacks of that prior to just wanting a spot.
And you hit on a good point. So for those of you who, most of y'all probably know, but some of y'all may not know. So I've had 3 spots. Original R Bar, 890 Oak Street. And then, that closed shortly after the pandemic just because of a fallout with the landlord. Something you can't really control. Like, we wasn't doing nothing wrong, but our lease was kind of up. And he was just kind of like, I ain't doing no more black bars, basically. So, we had that. And then we transitioned to Marvin's. Marvin's was a full-scale restaurant. We weren't even looking to do a restaurant. But we got caught in the ideology of like brunch and, this spot, and we got it. And to your point, Rico.
But I do miss those shrimp and grits.
Hey, man. You can,
my God. My bad.
It's a good time to reminisce. We can go get some. We can work that out. But just even that standpoint, that really opened my eyes because Chuck was about to open Sunset. He was a little bit ahead of us. We calling him trying to figure out how to get it done. But that first payroll, bro, 44 employees, all the hours, the man hours, $16,000.
Crazy.
And it's like, somebody's relying on this check to be in their account on Friday. And I think sometimes we get caught up with the outside aesthetic of, this is my spot. Come down to my spot. I'm going to stand at the end of the bar. I'm going to be cool. I'm going to order around the shots. They don't see me in there at 2 a.m. when the dishwasher had to go home because his kids, was waiting on him. Hey, these dishes can't sit here.
Exactly.
This floor got to get mopped. And so, understanding the entire and total package of what you're getting yourself in when it comes to owner operator, there are some times where I'm like, I'm glad I can just go to this venue. I can pack it out for 4 hours. I can take that check and go home, and I ain't got to do nothing else.
And I respect that.
Asset free.
Asset free. And so for me, you know what I'm saying, we had the new art bar. That wasn't a bad deal. You know, wasn't a good deal with the landlord. You're learning these life lessons, and sometimes we're so naive that we don't even understand what we're learning in the part of the process that we're learning it.
It's a fact.
And so people come to me now all the time with, hey man, you should go get this spot, or you should go look at that spot. And I'll look at it and be like, this spot, 4,000 square feet. I don't want nothing to do with this shit.
Nothing.
You looking at it like, we can put so many people in here and get tables. I'm thinking of AC. I'm thinking of the build out. I'm thinking of the parking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the traffic it takes to get here. I'm thinking of how many staff I got to put on here. I'm thinking if I want to order the fight, you know, they take the capacity is based on which pay-per-view.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I want, y'all be asking about the fight. Are you getting the fight? No, we not getting the fight.
Or they will sue you.
Or they will sue you if you try to wire it in. The fight is $2,100.
Yep.
You coming in here to get 2 Coronas and piss my bartender off. I ain't getting no fight.
Right.
And so I think part of our social responsibility while we do this show is to have a real conversation, because people not only come to you with ideas, but they have things they want to do for themselves. And I would be remiss not to take responsibility for you not bumping your head because I already did that.
Yeah.
Or Chuck already did that. Or Rico already did that. To take a little turn on things. You talked about all the places that you worked as part of your professional endeavors and your travels. I think that plays a key role. Talk to me about how traveling has influenced your, let's call it cultural impact or cultural entrepreneurship.
Bro, I say this all the time. I say this all the time. It's so hard to unsee what you've seen.
Bruh.
Rico, you said the DCs, the Miamis, the Atlantas. I frequent these places. One of my guys, he's got a spot open up in Atlanta very soon. I go down there a lot and I help him. But it's very hard to unsee when you see 10,000 black people looking good, fresh, fly, coming from Howard Homecoming, and they looking for a spot to go to. But we can go to, you know, I remember, you know what, it was called Love. Wasn't that place called Love? Yeah, called Love back in the day.
He's still around. He on Park now.
Yeah, and they got
for a
Park,
long
and it's
time.
just fly places. But like you said earlier, just to piggyback off of what you said, why can't we have a place like this? Why can't I bring the same vibes that I saw down in DC, you know, the same vibes that I saw down in Atlanta? Why can't I bring that back to Cleveland? And so now when you've seen those things, man, when you've been to Houston, when you've been to Dallas, when you've been to LA, and you've kicked it in fly places, fun places, safe places, you want to do the same for your city. And like you said, we don't have to stay just down here. We can elevate our palette. We can elevate our kick it. And even my audience, man, we almost all 40 now. We all was in school around the same exact time. So I don't really have an audience of like a 22-year-old or 23. That's not my lane anymore. So I just want to give people the experiences that they deserve, especially at this age and the space that they are in their lives. But yeah, traveling, man, it's hard to unsee, man. It's hard to unsee seeing yachts on Tuesdays in Miami, and that's where we're kicking it at, and we're eating charcuterie boards out there and popping, you know what I'm saying, champagne on the boat. I want this life. Yeah. I can't live in Miami.
Because you got to go back home.
Yeah, but I got to go back home. But why I can't bring Miami with me? Why I can't bring Atlanta with me? Let's have some fun. Yeah. You know?
I'm going to let Rico go. I'm going to bring up an interesting story. Rico.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Not only can you not unsee what you've seen, you can't unfeel what you felt, right? I think a lot of times when I've made decisions that haven't been favorable for me is when I've tried to do it from a place of non-feeling. Everything that I create, I try to create for me, right? If I was a fashion designer, I'd be screwed because I would only create what I liked, right? And you can't do that in any way, shape, or form. But I'm always trying to look for a feeling. We don't throw parties. We have experiences, right? And then to your point about the fact that our demographic now is in our age range, one of the things that I've learned is that you got to bring that 25-year-old kid that has it underneath your wing.
You gotta coach.
To let them cook a little bit because they'll take you further and they're running faster. And I do believe just with technology and everything, I mean, they're just wittier. They're teaching me things. I'm at a meeting a few days ago. I'm creating a promotional group called the Dream Team for young African-Americans, super lit niggas in the city. Right? And they've never had parties before. They got clothing brands, they've got this, they've got that. And to me, it reminds me of how we were, except for we wanted to have these events. Well, Right now, it's about access. Can we get access to that space?
Man.
So now I come to you and say, you have full access to me. How do we create these experiences? And they're absolutely incredible. So we're sitting down at a table for lunch a couple weeks ago, and we're building out, I'm still old school in this way, we're building out what's the mantra? What's the tagline for this? And one of them jumps on his phone and he says this incredible tagline, and I'm thinking, what'd you just do? He talking about ChatGPT. I'm like,
ChatGPT.
we didn't have access to stuff like that, right? So just them showing us what's going on and how they're moving, because it came so fast and it happened to be what we're going to use to launch their company. And I think that's important, man. The travel piece is a key play, but just being open-minded and understanding of what's going on in your surroundings and not being so caught up in your bottle is also the wave to go, especially if you want to maintain these spaces. You know,
and I think that's why sometimes you got to do something you're passionate about.
Facts.
Because people try to fake it, and Burn, I'm talking to you because me, you, and CJ talk about this in the chat. You'll have cats that try to jump in and want to be an owner or want to be a promoter just because they want some kind of notoriety or a quick check, but they're not passionate about it. So you can tell when like corners is cut. You can tell when things is just bad. You can tell when certain cats is just doing it just to say they doing it and to kind of be on IG.
We all know cats, the pledge to try to be cool, to try to get women. If you're corny, then
you're corny with
letters on.
You're going to be corny with letters on. So if you're a corny dude or you have these quirky things about you and you try to do this, you're still going to be the same person. This is a fact. You got to do this for the right reasons. Otherwise, you're just going to either burn out or you're gonna tumble down the hill.
And I tell people, my mom picked my major in college. My mom picked me to be a marketing major. I didn't pick no major. Yeah, she was like, I know you outgoing. I was student council, vice president of like the pep rallies and stuff. So I was putting together this pep rally. You was there. Pep rally was lit in high school.
Yeah.
But that translated, we talk about growth. I had a natural passion for events that I had to realize that needed to be cultivated. So I actually worked. It's pretty cool. I worked at the Attorney General's office right behind us in policy and public affairs, putting together like events. And then I went on to work in software, doing trade shows with companies like HP and Microsoft. Those are my clients and my accounts that I manage. And so I take events to a whole different extent as far as like Lynn. So like a party is not really anything for me, but I love the idea of creating an experience to use, like you said, for my people. So sometimes I get extra motivated when I go out of town. I love going to, I was in DC like 3 times a year at one point.
Facts.
DC, Atlanta, LA. I just like going to find different places and go. It ain't even got to be the most lit party. I just want to go feel the vibe. I want to see the venue. I want to see their processes. I went to Love in DC. That was the first time I ever had somebody swipe my credit card at the door to pay to get in.
That's crazy.
And I had to call my mom to get that $40 back. So, you know what I'm saying? So I really love the game, as Mitch said. And so when it comes to certain things, I like going out of town to experience and try to see what I can bring back to the city. The part that works great is people who have also traveled, they appreciate that. They appreciate that understanding. The hard part is the person who's lesser traveled, who's lesser exposed, who hasn't been outside of 270 or outside of 90 or outside of, y'all got all the freeways in Cincinnati, who ain't never been across the bridge farther than Covington or farther north than Blue Ash.
Right.
I learned my Cincinnati stuff. The harder thing is trying to bring them along as you continue to grow in age. So, hey, bro, we not wearing that no more. Hey, bro, we not doing that no more. We not doing this. I'm trying to put y'all on some fly shit for real. So the hard part is when we got Lincoln Social here, we're talking to my dude, he's like, man, why can't we have a Black Lincoln Social? And I'm like, sometimes it's that we're culturally not ready, like our community's not ready. Sometimes it's we just don't have the sheer numbers of Black people in our community to be able to support what this overhead cost is.
I agree.
This is a $17,000 a month venue. The drinks and cocktails got to be $22. You got to be open Tuesday to Sunday. We only got 200,000 Black people here. There's X amount of our counterparts.
Right.
They can afford to come here every day just by a market share rule. Yeah. People don't always understand
that's something that we talk about a lot. Like you said, why can't we have a Lincoln Social? Like we got Bar 32 in Cleveland. It's downtown Cleveland. It's on the 32nd floor of the Hilton Hotel. Very nice space. We have Garden of Eden. We got a bunch of nice like rooftop spaces. But like you said, why can't we have one of those? And it's hard when we're in a city where we're outnumbered, number one. And then it's hard when we're in a city where not everybody has the same income. Like our finance,
wealth
disparities, that wealth gap, that's a huge thing that we have to play in. But I also believe that there is something for everybody. So if you want to go to dollar night spots, there's nothing wrong with the dollar night spots. There's a crowd for that. I just hope you got enough security in the dollar night spots. You know what I mean? But there's nothing wrong with that.
I gotta get patted, I ain't going.
And then if you want to go to a spot where, the drinks are a little bit more, they put a little bit more into the space, someplace like Sunset. Shout out to my guys on the Grill 55 at Flight Social. If you want to go to a spot like these 3 places, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but it's safer, it's fun. But it's going to cost a little bit more, but there's a crowd, there's a space for that too. But that wealth gap, man, that's huge. That's another thing. That access to funding is hard because, if you want to have a Bar 32 or a Lincoln Social, not only does the rent cost, but the build out, the build out itself, it costs real money. That's not, probably is something that you can pull out your pocket, if you got the right group of people. But that's another thing. That's kind of one of the hard things that I'm trying to get over here is just having that access to funding.
Access to capital.
Yeah, that access to capital, like real capital.
Yeah.
Not like, no, like real capital.
I want to look at this dude on my right because he done mastered the game.
Yeah.
Because you have a fund.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. I feel pretty resourced, right? I'm not gonna lie. I created a fund called Fund Noir because I was hearing from people who look like us. Not that I didn't know it, but I was hearing it at a rapid speed, that they couldn't get access to capital. So took that back to the folks that I had access to capital from and said, hey, this is a problem. And not that they didn't know it. I felt like they just needed to hear it from the right people. Mm-hmm. So we created a $1.5 million fund, not a whole lot of money, but enough to continue to help build out the city, specifically as it came to the underserved. You say black and brown these days. Oh my goodness! And but the underserved to help out in a grant capacity, right? Which is truly trust money and allows for folks to be able to go on and do some incredible things. And we're excited about it. We just deployed 3 new investments just yesterday. Clothing brand, Dorima, organization is dedicated to getting people of color outdoors more, understanding what that does for mental and physical well-being, called We Outside.
Need vitamin D, man.
Absolutely. And then an organization that a musician is putting out an album who we need to retain in the city. You said something earlier though, Chuck.
That's super dope, by the way. Not to cut you off, but that's dope that y'all was able to do something like that.
I appreciate it, man. And you said something earlier that I think is powerful. What I get annoyed by is the folks that will spend customers, that will spend that kind of money, whatever that kind of money is, somewhere else,
give you an issue,
but won't spend it in their own city,
or they give you a harder time.
Give you a hard time about this or that, right? And then us as operators have to balance that, right? Because you're dealing with we've all had to being drug on Facebook to the bad Google review that your landlord sees. These things matter. And they come along with being an owner-operator versus just an asset-free promoter or whatever the case may be. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that daily because we want it to be a good place to come and we want it to be affordable without being cheap, and we want people to have access to it, but we also need to take care of our business, right? And in the grand scheme of things, what I've realized is that balance is nearly impossible, and I've began to hit a stretch where it's just like I realized that, we ain't gonna please everybody.
Can't do everything to everybody.
We ain't gonna please everybody. Let's do the absolute best we can, and we've done that. And we've got a faithful group of people who support that. But at the same time, man, that's one of the things that keeps me up at night, without the shadow of a doubt.
Man, it's so funny that you say that because I never had this problem when we start talking about Google reviews and we start talking about Facebook dragging.
Till you get a restaurant?
Because I had never dealt with food before.
Right.
Like even when we had our club, we didn't have any food.
Yeah.
We may have vendors that come in and food trucks that pull up, but I never had a dedicated restaurant. And this is my first time in the space. So when people are up there like, oh, your grits was this, and you know, some people don't like the grits, some people love the grits, but everybody's a food critic nowadays.
Yep.
And the only problem with me and everybody being a food critic is not a problem. You are entitled to your own opinion. It's your money, you spend it however it is that you want. But are you qualified enough to hop on the internet and then go make a video and say, I didn't like this, that, and the third because of this, that, and the fourth? What culinary school did you go to?
Right.
You know what I mean? Do you know what that palette, like, do you know what that's supposed to be like? Or do you only know that your grandma make it like this and that's how your grandma makes it?
And that's all you know.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you also wouldn't go to some of our counterparts restaurants and not like their food and then go on the internet and drag them. Please don't drag your own people.
Yep.
And it really is us versus them thing. It really is. And I'm dead serious about this because please do not talk down on your people just because you didn't like the food. If you didn't like it, that's your own opinion. But do not go on the internet and then, you know, everybody just wants to jump on to something bad. Oh, I didn't like it either. I didn't like it either. I didn't like it. I know it's some things that everybody can work on. Yeah. But, you know, if you had a bad experience at that 5-star restaurant, I almost guarantee that you didn't go on the internet and just talk bad about them.
No, some things are family business, right? It's just family business. And I have this, and
I like
that doesn't
just family business.
It's just family business, and that doesn't just go to the customers. That also translates to the staff. We have this conversation all the time. And I've been in several scenarios where I've said this out loud. If I was a 45-year-old white man having this conversation with you, there'll be very little pushback. You wouldn't have a whole lot to say or contribute to it outside of listening, accepting the constructive, and it is constructive criticism, right? And trying to find ways to do your job better versus making excuses. So I do believe that these are things that are subject to Black business owners. You said something early, and I went through the scenario. They know we Black. They know we're a Black-owned business. Every time it's written, it doesn't need to be said. Sometimes I just want to be a business.
Hey, I say that all the time. Like, I don't lead with
Facts.
a Black-owned business, because we are there's only, to be completely honest, where I'm at, in the area that I'm at, I think we're top 5 of art districts, you know, in the country.
Right.
We're right across the street from 2 world-renowned hospital institutions, University Hospital and Cleveland Clinic. There's only 2 Black restaurants in the area. We're the only full-service sit-down restaurant, and then we have right across the street, my guys, is Capo Cheesesteak, right across the street. So there's only 2, and the whole University Circle area is a small space, but it's a lot going on. There's a lot of money that comes through that area. But like you said, it's not a mystery that this is a Black-owned place, but we don't have to act like it's a Black-owned place.
Facts.
As soon as you come in, I have a 12-foot Black woman that's, you know, her face, a natural woman that's right there on the wall. It's a photo op. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But we don't have to act like this is a Black-owned spot.
No, I agree.
We need to conduct ourselves in a way that if I was to go to any other restaurant, this is how I would want to be treated. Yeah. You know, even if we're low on something or we're short on something, there's a way that you say that to the customers, a way that you deliver it to the customers. And even our customers, even though that it may be, Rico, it may be your first time coming in, I want to treat you with the utmost respect. I want everyone to treat you with the utmost respect. Just like you're a regular customer, not, oh, that's my guy Rico from college. Oh, that's my guy Rico from Cincinnati. No, this is a paying customer that's coming in. I want to give you the best dining experience that we can possibly offer here, you know, for what it is that we do.
Everybody in my party is VIP.
Come on now.
That's the way. And you know? That's the way. It's funny you say that. You know, what I've tried to do, Marlon, and you know about some of these things, is we try to run our business. First of all, we put business first before anything. Because without the business, without the infrastructure of the business, we're going to be stranded, right? So we have things like financial hardship relief fund for our employees. These things are unheard of, right? And in the realm of Black folks doing business, right? And or when Marlon comes to Cincinnati, he's like, wait a second, that wasn't over there. Like, upgrade your space.
Upgrading, constantly
My goodness. I mean, you're making money, man, right? One of the biggest pieces of advice that I received was, if you look like you're going out of business, you're going out of business. Yeah. Update your space. Take care of what's broken, right? Yeah. The number one thing is Love's got custom furniture. We spent $100,000 on furniture, right? And when we built the model, I don't know what I was thinking, but in order for people, for whatever reason, in order for people to order bottle service these days, it's like renting real estate. They do to that space what they want to do to it.
They want to stand on that couch.
But That's a part of it. And when a couch gets punctured, we got to take care of that. It's an expense to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more and more that we stop discounting ourselves as Black business owners and the customers and our staff, the better off we're going to be. But to your point earlier, like you said, how it takes everybody, it requires everybody. The business doesn't exist without the owner operator. And if the money doesn't flow in, the revenue doesn't flow in from the customers, and if the staff can't buy all the way in and make sure that your customers are happy, then it's a faulty system. And we got to do a better job at that.
I got a question to you, Rico, because
we got 4 minutes before we get too deep. We might have to do a part 2. But we
No,
can do a part 2. We got 4 minutes.
That's a good question.
Whatever.
We only got
Go
4
ahead,
minutes?
Yeah, we got 4 minutes. We can stretch it to 5, right? Rizzo 5? Okay, Rizzo said we got 5.
No, the reason being is because I do have a question. Like, I'm a independent owner, self-funded, and a lot of businesses in Cleveland are the same way. You know, if anybody knows anything about Cleveland, like it's a lot of just flat foot hustling types of people. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of businesses that are out there, but not a lot of, you know, capital that we've gotten from banks or whatever the case is. So everybody mostly, for the most part, is self-funded, how it is that they got their money. But when you talk about financial relief and you talk about, you know, a fund, the Fund Noir, how did you jump to that, you know, that mindset almost? Because I'm pretty sure you probably had one space and you were like, all right, cool. How can I step this up? Like, was it someone that you talked to? Was it something that you saw? Was it like, what was it that like catapulted you to, you know, at the next level? Like, what really bossed you up?
I'll be honest with you. I believe that when you're doing, everybody's trying to figure out this, whatever secret to the sauce it is that they believe exists, right? You got to do a few things, right, in order to win at this. And you know this already, and you're already doing it. You've got to sacrifice your sleep. You got to work your ass off, period. Your relationships are going to struggle, right? Personal relationships, the whole 9 yards, because you're working. You're not talking to your friends as much. You got to, and even then, you have to be lucky. You could do all of those things and you got to be lucky. And I've never shared this story publicly, but the first two are a natural thing for me. But I got lucky. And I met an ally, young white dude who wanted to pour into me, who understood what it is that I was trying to create, who had a mind, who was raised by parents who didn't see the world as most of their peers and their demographic and age group did in that generation. And he resourced me with my first deal financially. Now, what happened was when I went to that deal, I came prepared to pay the black tax. He saw that work. He saw that I had a P&L, had a 5-year P&L for a barbershop. Who does that?
That ain't,
that's the one thing we've always owned. Our barbershops. I had a 5-year P&L for a barbershop. That transitioned into opening my smaller space, 1,600 square feet, which changed the city.
Were you a barber before?
For sure. Say it again?
Were you a barber before?
Nope. Not a barber.
He got to follow
That's
you on
funny.
IG to see
that post, that post is crazy. We'll talk about it in a minute. Not a barber, but just love the barbershop culture. The country club aspect of what we have conversations about, how it's unfiltered and unregistered. And then when you leave, it's kind of just like what happens there stayed there, right?
That's a fact.
So I love that, right? And then, but transitioned into cinema, which is my 1,600 square foot bar, which changed the city. Did over $1 million in revenue in year one, 1,600 square feet. I don't mind sharing this because I like sharing these things to motivate people because, damn it, I wish somebody shared it with me.
What I tell you,
right?
He gonna tell you.
Give away the gems. I don't really care. It is what it is. And then 8 months into that project, the same man took me to lunch and was like, I want you to check something out today. You got an extra 15 minutes. And we walked into where Love is, a 4,800 square foot venue that was raw, not even a concrete floor in it. And immediately I was able to see the vision, right? And pulled the resources together, him and I together now, because I'm the creative. He has the financial backing. We come together and we make this a reality. Now, the fact of the matter is, though, Chuck, had I gone to first meeting on bullshit, none of it would have happened.
Done.
And had I not put the work in, At the small little barbershop on Main Street, the bar project on Vine Street wouldn't have happened. And had I not put the work in on the project on Vine Street, Love wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a rooftop bar opening in 5 weeks.
That's what's up.
Backed by all the same people. So the luck matters, but you got to create your own luck by putting in that work. And I think that's been the case, right? And if you don't get into the rooms or you're not having the conversations, closed mouths don't get fed, or you talk about the things it is that you want to do, you're just going to be sitting on them.
You know, it's funny that you say that, man. Like, being lucky, it goes a long way. But, man, more importantly, like you said, you got to put in the work.
Yep.
You got to put in the work when the doors are closed, when nobody's watching, when you in the gym by yourself. Man, that's really what's most important.
Most important.
Yeah, we're gonna put the rest of this on. What's it called? Not Peacock. What's the paywall one? Patreon. Yeah, we're gonna get a Patreon today. We're gonna charge y'all for this extra 45 minutes.
I was about to get real deep.
Look, we're gonna spin the block on it, but I appreciate y'all taking this time. These are the conversations that people don't hear, and I think even us as owners, these two just met today. Y'all probably can't even tell, but they just met today. Yeah. So, like, these are the conversations that we do have. You know, I talk to Chuck pretty regularly. I talk to Rico when I remember to text back and call back. You know what I'm saying? He's way better at checking in than I am at supporting him as a friend. So I got to do better.
You got the kids and stuff.
No, so I got the kids. I got my Moho membership though.
There you go. I did see that. I did see that.
I had to get that together. But one last piece of advice, 30 seconds or less for the people that's watching, man. Just anything business related, life related, man. You related, whatever.
A little piece of advice that I would give, man. I didn't even get into, half of my story. I went through like some crazy stuff with Sunset. It had burnt down.
Wow.
Had to rebuild it. Took 2 years to rebuild. Burnt down during All-Star Weekend. It was a crazy situation. But if I could tell anybody, man, just stay persistent. Like, if you have a goal, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, and even though no one else will be able to see it, I know they won't. But man, just keep pushing. Just keep pushing, keep knocking, keep going. And eventually something's going to break for you. Like, I promise you something's going to break for you. But you have to really lay out your plan completely. Right. Like, if you say, hey, I want to make $1 million. All right, how are we going to make $1 million this year? Well, it's going to take 83,000. I don't know. My math is a little off right now, but let's just say it's $80,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what we have to do every single month. All right. So now if there's 4 weeks in a month, how can we break it down like this? If I want my videos to look like this, then who do I have to get? How many times am I going to have to post? If you want to grow your followers, like, you have to break down every single plan. Nothing happens just out of the blue. Everything happens because somebody put a clear, concise plan together and they saw it through. But if you don't write that plan down, you don't write it down, it's never going to happen.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I would say that that's one of my top things, is making sure that I'm writing the game plan down and the strategy. I built companies on my phone and my notes tab and break down the P&L at a high level, and then I take it to the Excel sheet. For me, and I've said this multiple times, so this is not breaking news, I believe that you have to put your blinders on. I believe that, when you're watching horses race and they are running them, as fast as they possibly can, the distractions that they alleviate themselves from by having blinders on both sides of their face allows them to keep superior focus. And there's so much noise, not in just this industry, but if we were writing a book or if we were opening a sneaker boutique, there's so much noise that can distract you, whether it's haters or people who think that they're haters, because some people think they're haters and they ain't even haters, right? Because for whatever reason, whether it's family distractions, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you have to know that it's okay to do it in a collaborative way, but the work has to be done really with yourself. And if you don't have those blinders on and you're so unfocused because of all the outside factors, it's going to take you a long time to get there. That's just my personal opinion. I've been through it as a personal, and you got to be sort of almost nearly insane and naive to think that you can win at something at the capacity that if it's a dream level capacity, people have to think that you're absolutely insane until you do it.
Damn, I couldn't agree more.
That's fair. And it's funny because y'all kind of said what I was going to say. This is how you know you hanging around with your true peers. And I say this all the time. I keep talking to Burn because me and Burn had these conversations. Ideas are great. execution is law.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what you tell me. I hear great ideas all the time. The proof is in the execution.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, don't bring me, you can bring me an idea. When you bring me that idea again, I'm going to ask for some kind of like, okay, where's your overview? You have a deck, you got something, you got some research that you've done. Don't keep telling me about this idea you've got. And like you said, I've got a Google Drive. I know I'm working billion because I got a Google Drive full of, bro, I'll break out an idea and work on it in 20 minutes. Especially now with ChatGPT.
No problem.
Bro, okay, edit this, cool, save.
Somebody ever got a hold of this phone, I swear to God, like you said, they'd be a millionaire
They'd be a millionaire,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Because all my ideas, like you have to let them out.
But that's the biggest thing, bro. Have ideas. I love how creative we are as people, but I want us to be the greatest executors that we can be. And so whatever it is, whatever your idea may be, put them blinders on, pour into it, and bro, you have to keep pushing. But we're gonna charge the rest of this behind the paywall. My name is Marlon Anthony. This is our podcast. Over and out.